Silence of the Heart, Robert Adams, Chapter 9. Student. Is it not necessarily done with effort and intention? Is it more a matter of letting go than a matter of effort, which can only take you so far? Robert. Yes, that's true. Student. Is it that intense effort before you let go to realize how simple it is? Robert, you wonder why you used effort at all. Student, I think it has a valid place. It builds up such intensity that one can awaken. And then when you awaken, you realize how simple it was. Robert, but remember for whom the effort is. It is the ego that uses effort. It is much better to observe the ego than to resist it. You observe the ego effortlessly. You simply watch yourself the way you react to conditions and see how much you react to given conditions that affect you. Are you still reacting as you always did? You notice how quiet your mind is, that your mind does not move so far anymore. It does not go out so far. It stays still, and everything is happening around you but not to you. Again, you become the observer of all the things of the life that are going on. You watch, but you do not react. Student, is that what you mean by abiding in the I? Robert, not really. Abiding in the I is holding on to the I by inquiring. To whom does this come? It comes to me. I feel it. Then who am I? That is abiding in the I. Student, when you ask, who am I, then silence comes? Robert, the silence does not come because the silence already is. Student, your awareness of silence appears? Robert, you simply become still and then you ask, who am I? Student, abiding in the I, is that the silence you abide in? Robert, you abide in the I by asking, who am I? Holding on to the I is abiding in the I. Student, I still don't know what you mean by holding on to the I. Robert, you become aware of the I by asking, who am I, over and over again. Who is this I? Where did it come from? Who am I? Who am I? Student, that sounds more like questioning the I rather than living in the I. Robert, it is the same thing. That is the way you abide in the I. It's the only way. Student, what is the difference between abiding in the I and abiding in the self? Robert, when you abide in the I, you are abiding in the ego. The I is really the ego, the small I. It turns into the self eventually. So when you abide in the I, you abide in the self because there is only one I. This small I turns into the self. Eventually, only the self exists. But in the beginning, it appears like the lowercase I. And as you continue holding on by asking the question, who am I? It turns into the self, the I am. Student, so it's pretty clear. Robert, as clear as mud. Student, so Robert, all the questions and all the answers are also part of Maya. they can never be answered intellectually? No. Student, the only valid thing is to practice to follow the teachings of the teacher, the method he advises, and that is it. Questions, answers, discussions are all out of the question. Robert, you're right. Maya cannot be broken up intellectually because it never existed. It does not exist. There is no Maya. Once you realize that, you are awakened to the true self. Student, so all the instructions, all the questioning, all the answering, all of that is part of Maya too? Robert, it is all a waste of time, but you have to do something. Student, yes, that is what I mean. Follow the teaching of the teacher as a practice. Follow the practice. Robert, if you do that, you'll be okay. But the teaching is only to show you that there are no teachings. You simply awaken, and then you know you have always been awake. There never was a time when you were not. None of this exists. If you have a quiet mind, you are safe. But if your mind is always thinking, looking for new methods, looking for new teachers, looking for new this and new books and new this and new that, then you've got a problem. Be still and know that I am God. Student, Robert, you said all you have to do is be still, be quiet, but it seems as though to find the stillness, that quietness, there is a battle with the mind. Robert, to whom? To whom does it appear that way? Student, well, if I do self inquiry, if you are quiet for a moment, then the mind comes back up, and then you do self inquiry again, you are quiet again, and then the mind comes back up. Robert, okay. Student, well, that's a battle. Robert, this is really no battle. If you ask, to whom does it come? Student, well, that's your weapon. Robert, so use the weapon to win the battle. Student, well, that's my point. That it is a battle. It is not so much just to be quiet. On one hand, it takes that effort and it takes the Robert, I understand what you mean, but as long as you talk yourself into a battle, you're going to have a battle on your hands. Student, well, it seems as though if you ignore the battle, you will have to battle anyway. So the battle is inevitable, but you can choose the battlefield. Robert, on the contrary, if you become indifferent and just watch, your mind will actually slow down all by itself. Don't get involved. Just watch, be still, and there will be no battle. Student, isn't it part of the illusion that there is some quiet or silence that one is going to attain? Robert, quiet and silence are your real nature. Student, yes, but it's not. Robert, silence and quiet. Student, I mean, I understand what you're saying and I agree, but it still has nothing to do with quiet and silence. Robert, that is because you're always making noise. You're making noise right now. You refuse to keep silent. Student, it's true. That is what I feel about you too, Robert. Robert, I am not really talking. Student, well, if you were to witness and that becomes effortless and the mind becomes quiet, that is very understandable. But if you are doing vichara, self inquiry, that is like.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please repeat it?
Good old Siri, you're always listening.
I respect your privacy and only listen when you're talking to me. You can learn about Apple's approach to privacy on apple.com.
So you are very much like the egoic mind, always listening and always have an answer for everything. What if I shut you off, slide the power button over, cut you off, and there's no ego listening or reacting? There is only existing. There's things being done, but there's no doer. There's reading happening, but there's no reader. But char is really done by quieting the mind, and if you look at it as an effort, it becomes an effort. Try not to have any thoughts for or against. Just do it peacefully and watch what happens. But don't tell yourself it is a battle. It is an effort. It is hard. Make it simple. Observe, watch, ask in a simple way, and everything will take care of itself. It depends on your maturity. Everybody is different. I am not saying you should not involve yourself in the world. Just do not react to anything you do. Simply observe yourself and the things that you react to. Make life simple and comfortable. Student, and do plenty of silence. Robert, if you don't react to conditioning, then you are always in silence. You can be in the marketplace, you can be anywhere. If you don't react, you are always in silence. You can also be in a cave, but if you have not learned to control your mind will drive you crazy. Do all kind of thoughts. Therefore, it makes no difference where you are. It is how you react where you are that counts. The silence of which I am speaking of course, is an interior realization. It is achieved by the mature aspirant. In the beginning, many people think that I mean that there is no noise, so they make everyone be quiet, but the mind is going crazy. If you are really in silence, it does not matter what is happening outside. The silence of which I speak is the presence of the Supreme. You will feel a peace, unalloyed happiness, all pervading love.